Hi everybody, this is Roxy, your Firewife Lawyer Mom, and today we're going to talk all about reading. If you are someone who is super frustrated with your child's progress in reading, if you feel that you want to pull your hair out every time you're trying to teach your child to read, or if you are starting a homeschooling journey and you want to know about reading and what kind of reading and phonics resources you should use, stay tuned to this video. All right, so I have a little bit of a background before I start in telling you what I have learned about teaching my kids how to read. So first of all, I have two kids. I have one that's 5 and one that's 8. And my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old have had two totally different reading journeys. I don't know if this is something that you guys can relate to, but it's completely two ends of the spectrum. So my first daughter, who's 8, she is an amazing reader. She flies through books. She's always been really ahead in reading since she was very little. Obviously she was the first one. My kids are 3 years apart. So obviously at the beginning, when it's your first child, you work with them on letters and letter sounds and all those kinds of things. Because you're a new mom and you just want to, try to see if you could get them ahead. So, definitely with my first child, we didn't really struggle too much in reading. She was very ahead. She's actually right now going into 3rd grade. She reads at about a 5th or 6th grade level. So she's really, really advanced in reading. So when I had my second one, I started to see that she was not really advancing or as much of an avid reader as my first child. So I kind of did a little bit of the same things, but she didn't show as much interest in reading as my first child did. So I kind of just, it's when it's your second kid, you've got your other one and you're just like, trying to juggle everything. So I didn't do as many of the things that I had done with my first one. So I don't know if you could relate to that, but you feel a little bit of mother's guilt with it. But it's something that just kind of happens. And so when she entered into preschool, I noticed that a lot of her, we just are starting our first homeschool year this coming fall. But before that, both children have been in school since they were 2.5, 3 years old. They've been in preschool. So when she started preschool, with my second one, I saw that those struggles that I had seen early on were continuing on in her schooling years. And I had a lot of conferences with the teachers and, she just wasn't advancing in reading. And so my journey into homeschooling is a long one and I don't want to get into it in this video, but I had a really hard time with her, getting her to where I wanted her or where I thought she could be in reading. And so I started to look into what are the kinds of programs or what are the kinds of things that I can do to supplement at home. And so I went into my research guru mode and looked at different videos and blogs, and I read books on reading, different things about how to teach your child how to read, how to help your child who's struggling at reading. And so I really learned how it was to teach reading. And I feel very, very confident in this area because a lot of us as parents, we think that because we don't have teaching degrees, we can't teach our kids how to read. Or because we don't have teaching degrees, we can't teach our kids the way that they can at school. And I'm here to tell you that nothing could be further from the truth. I'm a true believer that we as parents are the primary educators of our children. And so we give this role to schools and teachers, but it's almost like we've done it for so long that we kind of feel inept to be able to teach our own kids. And it's really the complete opposite. We are totally capable. And so I have a couple of things that I wanted to share with you about reading. I'm not a teacher, but I am a mom, and I'm a mom that cares, and I'm a mom that works so hard for my kids. And so I knew that I had the passion to be able to learn how to teach my child to read. And so I have a couple of philosophies before I show you what my resources are in teaching kids how to read, but it's really something that you can easily do. You could start even when they're 2-3 years old. You could even start when they're babies, because you could read to them. You could read to them while they're in the womb and they hear you. You could read to them when they're babies and they hear you. So reading aloud is one of the most important things to teaching your children how to read. So going back to my philosophy on reading is, I have a few things I want to say. So number one, reading is a one-on-one skill that they can't learn in the classroom. And the reason why is because reading is something that involves a one-on-one. And this is my experience. If you are taking your child to school every day and expecting that they're going to teach them exactly how to read, and that you don't really have to do anything at home, you're completely wrong. I'm not knocking teachers. I love teachers. I respect them. I have very, very good friends who are teachers. But reading is something that needs to be supplemented at home. You can't just give it to the system to be able to teach them how to read. It's something that you have to do and have a lot of diligence in doing if you want your child to be successful in reading. And so they can't learn it in the classroom, because usually classroom sizes are about 18 to 25 kids. And there's just really, it's really hard, especially if you have someone like my younger daughter who gets overwhelmed in a big crowd, kind of gets lost. She has some focus issues, some attention issues. She's not ADHD, but she's, it's a struggle for her. And so, it's definitely a one-on-one. So when this whole coronavirus happened, I brought her home, I started to realize how behind she was in reading. And she was already in pre-K 4 and going into kindergarten. And I started to kind of freak out a little bit, because I felt that, so much time had been lost and I really didn't do anything about it. But God is good and God is merciful. And I was able to take her reading to another level during this coronavirus. It was an amazing opportunity that God gave me to really look into how I can get her reading. And right now, I'm happy to say that she has improved leaps and bounds with what I have done. So definitely, I hope you stay tuned to this video, because I promise you that it's going to be something that you're going to love to explore with me. So the first thing is, reading is a one-on-one skill. Number 2, reading takes practice. You can't learn reading unless you're doing it every day. It is an everyday thing. You either whether you're reading to your children, or whether you're having your children read to you, or whether you're reading with them, it's an everyday thing. It's got to be something that is on your daily routine. Maybe you take a day off or so, but definitely it's something that takes a lot of practice and a lot of consistency. Number 3, it takes patience. We have to be patient with our learning readers. I know that's something I struggle with, because I'm not a very patient person. I'm kind of a type A. So it's hard for me, but I have learned just through the struggles that the more patience you have, the more they will excel in reading. Number 4, you don't have to be a teacher to teach your child how to read. I already talked about this before, but you don't have to. Parents, we need to gain confidence again in being the primary educators of our kids. And if you want your child to get to another reading level, there's no one better than you. Now, I know that it's hard, because we all work and have jobs, some of us, and it's so hard to, and other children to care about and to worry about and to be with. But that doesn't take away the fact that if you are a loving and passionate parent, that you can't teach your kids to read. You totally can. There are simple steps that you can take in order to teach your kids to read. And so those are the kind of steps that we're going to talk about today. So I have some notes, as you can see. All right. So step number 1, the first thing that you need to do when you're teaching your kid how to read is focus on the letters and the letter sounds. So A as in apple, B as in ball, constantly, if you're in the kitchen and you want your child to grab a cup, you're going to say cup, go grab the cup, letter C, cup. So getting them very, very well versed in knowing their letters and the sounds that each letter make is huge. Now, a resource that I definitely recommend for this is Leapfrog. Leapfrog DVDs I'm not a big on screens. I don't like having my kids watching TV all day, but if they're watching Leapfrog, I'm totally fine with that. Now, obviously everything in moderation, but Leapfrog has this great phonics series. There's one called Phonics Farm. I have to tell you, with my first child, I really think that this is what taught her letter sounds. They have awesome songs and little rhymes and things to help them learn the vowels, to learn the all the letter sounds, and they do it in a really fun way. And if you get them hooked on that Leapfrog, I'm telling you, they will learn their letter sounds. So the first step is they need to get really, really well versed in letter sounds. And you can't move to the next step of learning them, of teaching them how to read until they have learned and mastered every single letter sounds. And I'm going to do in a separate video different activities that I have incorporated and made and produced in order to just continue to reinforce their letters and letter sounds. So I will definitely do a separate video on that, but that's the first step in reading, is knowing their letters and their letter sounds. Okay. Then the second step is, once they know their letters and letter sounds really, really well, then you go ahead and do 2-letter blends. Okay. 2-letter blends, just 2 letters. So I have a chart here, I'm going to reach out. And this is a chart that we do every single day. And she's already mastered it, and I will post this if you want. You guys can take a screenshot of it. But basically, this is all of the a, e, o, okay? And then it adds a consonant in front of it, okay? So ba, be, bi, bo, ba. Okay, da, de, di, do, da. So you go through this chart every single day with your child. This is the second step. Once they know all their letters and their letter sounds, you can start with this. Now, there's an amazing YouTuber. Her name is Jady Alvarez, and she has an amazing teach your child to read videos. So if you want some extra supplement on learning how to read, I will link her YouTube channel also. But this I compiled from my daughter, who was in preschool, who was coming home with this every single week. She was coming with a different ba, be, bi, bo, sa, se, si. She was coming with these little charts. So I was like, let me combine it all, and then we can just review it all together in one shot. And so this goes all the way to Z, as you can see, za, ze, zi, zo, za. And so what we would do is we would go over it together, and it got to a point where I would just point to it and she would read it and she would see it. So they've got to be super good in this before you move to step number 3. Step number 3 is CVC words, okay? So CVC words are consonant, vowel, consonant. See, people, I'm not a teacher, and I figured this out. Okay, so consonant, vowel, consonant means they're short 3-letter words, like, for example, the word map, okay? M-a-p. Map, okay? So these CVC words, and you can go on Teacher Pay Teachers and find tons of worksheets on CVC words, okay? And so what I do is, this is from Jady Alvarez's program, and again, I love her reading programs. They're super amazing. You can buy these flashcards on Teachers Pay Teachers, and she has, it has, what's great is that it has the word pat, and then it has a picture in the back so that they can associate the word with a picture. And so what we do is, once they've mastered the 2-letter blends, then we go into step number 3, which is the CVC words, okay? And so sometimes I will get those little tubes, little characters, you can get like even little people that are like different animals and things like that. And so what I'll do is I will get, like, for example, a ram, and I'll get a little animal ram, and I'll put it next to it. So I could tell her, give me the ram, and she'll point it to me. And so I have all kinds of, so these are all CVC words, and there's tons of different activities that you can come up with for these words, okay? And I will do a separate video on that, but they've got to master these CVC words, okay? And so basically it's, words that have, consonant, vowel, consonant, and then, so there's nap, and then, E words, I words, the whole gamut, okay? So that would be the next step. The fourth step, once you have mastered these little flashcards, okay, mug. Once you've done that, then you're gonna move to Bob books, okay? Bob books are amazing, okay? These are amazing. They sell them at Costco. They sell them on Amazon, all over the place. Bob books should be the first books that you read with your child. Also decodable, Scholastic has a decodable series because they can decode the words. That's another great resource as well that you can use for readers. So these are the little readers. They come in a series of, I think, like 4 or 5 little books, and it starts with really, really simple. So this one is Set 1, Book 1, and it's Matt. And it's literally a whole little story, and it talks about Matt. And what did he do? Matt sat. So it's super, super easy, and your kids don't get frustrated because it is like super easy words. They repeat a lot of the same words. They use a couple of sight words in there, so they already start to get that inside the books as well. So there's also these little Scholastic decodables. And this was from my preschool, my daughter's preschool teacher who actually had this series, and she made copies for me. So I was able to keep these for her as well. And so you start with just one book a week, okay? One book. If they master that book, we make a little celebration, we get a sticker, and then we move on to the next book, okay? I also took the chart here, right? And I made them into little flashcards too, you know? So we have like ko, you know, what is this? Ge. So I made little flashcards too. That's another idea you can have if you don't want to do the chart. So once you're done with those, so once they are mastering the Bob books, now Bob books also has workbooks that go along with the Bob book series. So I will link that as well. And that is like taking those books and making them into little workbook activities, little workbook pages. So you could also do that as well. If you have a kinesthetic learner, someone who's like a hands-on type of learner, I would definitely recommend buying those magnetic letter tiles, magnetic letters, and they can actually spell the words out and use pictures and things like that. And I'll do a separate video on that because I have fascinating reading things on that. Okay, so once they have mastered the Bob books, they have mastered all of these beginner reading series, then you can hit the ground running. Then you can just give them books. Give them books to read. You know, the Step Into Reading is another great series. They have levels. And you just first you can start reading it to them. Then let them start reading it on their own. Let them start decoding the words on their own. And then it's all a matter of giving your children books to read. Now, my 3rd grader, who reads at a very, very high level, she reads 20 minutes a day, okay? And I truly believe that once they hit 2nd grade, they should be reading daily 15 minutes a day. For my daughter, we do it the first 15 minutes she wakes up. Instead of going and watching morning cartoons, she sits and reads for 15 minutes. If she does that, then that's part of her chores. It's part of her routine. I take away all remote controls, and if they're not done with their reading session, they don't get TV. It's that simple. And so I really encourage you parents to really focus on giving them that routine of them reading every single day so that they can just get better. The more they read, the better readers they will be, because as they are reading, they are just retaining more words, learning what more words are. Now, a tip, when they're having their reading time, what I suggest is have them read somewhere where you're going to be at. So if you're washing dishes or you're cleaning the kitchen or you're cooking dinner, have your child sit at the counter and read aloud to you. So important that those 15, 20 minutes they're reading aloud, because then you can catch if they're mispronouncing something or if they're not reading something properly. So you ask them to read to you, and then you can also check and make sure that they're not pronouncing something improperly. Another thing you can do is if you have younger siblings, have the older siblings read the little books to the younger ones. First of all, that makes them feel super important, makes them feel like a big sister, a big brother, and they read to them. And it's just so beautiful to see. My older daughter does a lot of reading to her little sister. And every time I catch them in that moment, obviously they're like, sometimes fighting all the time because they're two girls and they want the same toys and they want the same stuff. But when I have those moments where I'm looking in the playroom or I'm looking in their room and the older one is reading to the younger one, it just melts my heart. I love it because it's so beautiful that they are bonding and being together. And so that's pretty much all that I have. There are some resources that I'm going to be using this year for reading, and I had showed this to you also in my curriculum video, but I'm going to show you guys again. But for phonics, I recommend the Phonics Pathways. This is an amazing reading series. I also recommend Alpha Phonics. I don't think I have it with me, but Alpha Phonics is a great program for reading. If you want something a little bit slower, then you can do Hooked on Phonics, or you can also do, there's another reading resource that I have here, that is the reading lessons. Teach your child to read in 20 easy lessons. This is another amazing one. It's very slow, and this is another great resource for teaching reading as well. Also, my girl, Jady Alvarez, who I love, has a sight word reading program on Teachers Pay Teachers, and I will link her site below as well if you are interested. All right, everyone, so that's everything that I have for reading. Hopefully this has been a helpful video. If you want to see more, definitely make a comment, like this video for sure, thumbs up on it, and subscribe to my channel. There's so many more things that I'm going to be bringing into this channel for you guys, resources, stuff that I've learned. Don't waste all of that time researching. I've done all the research for you. And so I definitely hope that you become part of my community, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye-bye.